chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. With Martin Sobo. A chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. With Martin Sobo.
Do you think that Baba Obasanjo could be on the stage while these Boko Haram people are doing what they are doing?
The objective of the private organization is slightly different from...
Nigeria is the most important country
of education. The collapse of culture in Nigeria. Even with cheating, we can't pass.
We've not done enough. There's still more. Join us.
And you never regret that you did.
Hello and welcome. This is A Chat to the Professional, the show designed to x-ray the activities of professional individuals and corporate bodies. As usual, I'm Martin Sobo and sure glad here to be with you. Sometime in the month of February, we did have architect Darius Ishaku, one then of the aspirants who was then aspiring to become governor in Taraba State, in northeast Nigeria. And he did mention to us that he was on a rescue mission to Taraba State. Now, we had arranged an interaction with him to see how far, about 6 months down the line after being sworn in as the governor of Taraba State, to find out how much of the rescue he's been able to do before we got a verdict from the Election Tribunal that says, hey, you are not the governor. In the first instance, you were not qualified to contest. Therefore, today we are going to be looking at Taraba State. How much of the rescue have we had since Darius Ishaku was brought to power? Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break, and by the time I return, I'll be introducing my guest. Please stay. You're still watching the show A Chat to the Professional, and like I mentioned to you today, we are going to be talking practical governance, if you like. We've so much advocated that on this show. And if you remember some time ago, I did have the governor of Taraba State, architect Darius Ishaku, who told us he was on a rescue mission to Taraba State. And then somehow along the line, we are having some developments in that state. And that's why today I have brought on set someone who should know. A chartered accountant. He is indeed a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. He's been into private practice. He's also been in government. He's been a commissioner, two-time commissioner in 2 different ministries, including finance. But essentially also, he was the returning officer for the PDP in the Taraba general elections, governorship elections that is. And that's why we thought he is someone who should know and who has what it takes to talk about the subject matter. So join me now as I welcome to the show, Rebo Usman. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, my brother. Yes.
Now, the governor, architect Darius Ishaku, he did tell us some time ago on this show that he's on rescue mission to Taraba State. Would like to know, as the chief of staff, the current chief of staff to the governor, how much of that rescue has he been able to achieve since May 29th?
First of all, I want to thank you very much for the privilege of being on your program.
You're welcome.
I hope we'll be able to do some justice to this discussion.
Okay.
Taraba State, before Governor Darius was sworn in, was definitely in the state that required this rescue that he talks about.
Okay.
About 2 years to the end of the tenure of Governor Dambaba, we had this unfortunate incident, the plane crash, that changed the story and indeed I would say the history of the politics of Taraba State.
Yes.
the people of Taraba State will continue to remember the courage with which he attacked critical issues that had to do with the socio-economic development of Taraba State, including education.
Good.
Courageously, he established the Taraba State University, which is doing very well now. Courageously, he opened up Jalingo, the state capital, that had just one road leading into and out of the state headquarters. He did so many things that people never believed could happen to us in Taraba State. And above all, under Governor Dambaba, Taraba was enjoying so much harmony and unity, peace.
Okay.
Because nobody cared whether you would belong to one ethnic group or the other. Nobody really cared whether you belong to one religion or the other.
Okay.
But immediately he crashed and his deputy then took over. It became a problem.
Wow.
Taraba began to descend to a point that the state also crashed. Under the erstwhile deputy governor, who was ousted by the Supreme Court in November 2014.
Okay.
By that time, everything good about Taraba State was already gone. The state university workers were on strike. You dared not talk about having water supply. The education system had gone comatose because throughout the 1.5 years or thereabout that the then deputy governor was in charge, all that he concentrated on was his ambition of eventually becoming the substantive governor of Taraba State. Taraba State would only wish that that era were a bygone era. The Supreme Court came to our rescue, and we had that short period of 6 months that the original deputy governor came in to conclude. But then he couldn't have done anything about the issue of socio-economic development because it was an election period. The time was too short for him to do anything. Now, in the process of the electioneering campaigns, Darius went to all the local governments in the state and saw the deplorable state of affairs as at that time, because most of the infrastructures put in place were no longer functional. The roads, for example, the Bali Gemu road that Dambaba started was not where the contractors had already relocated. So there were so many things like that. So I want to tell you that in the course of his campaigns, he personally, from his campaign funds, drilled so many boreholes. I can't count how many, because there were places he went to that he felt he had to immediately intervene.
Do something.
So he is somebody that clearly is committed to the socio-economic upliftment of our people. And because of the way he saw the whole situation, the whole scenario, he felt it was not the issue of improving on what is on ground. He felt that everything, most of these things had collapsed. And so all that it required was what? Rescue. So I have to give you this background so that you understand why he used the word rescue. Rescue. Now to your question, how far has he gone? Of course, every politician, everybody going into government newly will tell you it is too short a time for you to assess to see whether he has been able to achieve anything or not. But I do tell people that you can get to know who is prepared to do what he wants to do as a leader right from day one.
I agree with you.
How were the footsteps? How did he step into that office? The way you step into the office goes to show
the body language.
The body language goes to show whether you really have a heart, whether you are prepared to do what you want to do or not. So to me, I don't believe that achievement is rated by what you have been able to do in 100 days. I was opportunity to do a write-up on his 100 days, and I said these things I'm saying.
Especially given the current economic situation.
So, but then, what was the body language that he went into the office with? You could see passion in him. You could see that he had a very clear understanding of what he wanted to do, and you could also see that he had his strategies. From the word go, he showed the people of Taraba State that he will not take kindly to anything that will distort their right to good life. So he immediately went into action to get the university workers back to work. For over 12 months, there had been no water supply in Jalingo. They had the state headquarters. He said no. Water is something we cannot joke. What was the problem? I remember he made the permanent secretary work 48 hours, because he gave her 48 hours within which water must begin to flow in Jalingo. Now, it might not be a thing or a project that you will say, wow, he has been able to do this. But you could see the heart with which he did it. And within 48 hours, water started flowing in Jalingo. To date, he makes sure water flows. Of course, the issue of electricity, when people say he did not do anything about electricity in Taraba State, I laugh at them. Because when he came in, of course, generally the output, the production of electricity had improved slightly nationwide. Many states were enjoying electricity, but the question is, was Taraba enjoying electricity? We had only 2 megawatts allocated to Taraba State. Now the passion with which he came in, and of course the privilege of us enjoying his exposure at the national level, he knows what he's supposed to do to get what.
By the way, he was the Minister of State.
Exactly.
And I remember that was one area that he passionately talked about.
Exactly. And I'm sure he must have told you what he did in the power sector when he went there. Now, for my brother, within the 3 weeks of his assumption of duty, the Taraba State share from the national grid rose from 2 megawatts to 18 megawatts.
Amazing. And
I want to tell you that since then, power supply has not gone worse. And I'm sure everybody knows that in Taraba now, if for any reason power supply goes down, it will be a national problem.
Yes.
He saw in his commissioners just a few days ago. He came in with what he calls the rescue agenda, with a 7-point area of focus, which has the emphasis on peace and unity for Taraba State. Now, since he came into power, he has continued to demonstrate that he is committed to the peaceful coexistence of the people of Taraba State.
This swearing in, sorry, the swearing in you just mentioned now, takes me to the next point, because one would say, why the rush? All this while he never swore in commissioners, and then all of a sudden, because I was going to get into that, the Election Tribunal verdict that says, hey, you are no longer the governor, and then all of a sudden we are seeing him swear in commissioners. I don't know. What is your take on that?
No, I think people, it's politics, and everybody has his right to say whatever he wants to say. But people would not get to know what is actually happening. He had actually fixed several dates for the swearing in, and each time he fixed this date, something would crop up. There was this time he came into Abuja here thinking he would come for 2 days and go back. He ended up spending 2 weeks. That was the period within which he wanted to swear in the commissioners. He was not able to do it. He went back, and then it was just 1 day he had to go to Jerusalem.
I see.
Now this time for the swearing in had already been fixed several times. He is not bothered, he's not shaken by the ruling, because he has seen the substance of the case, and he has seen that something wrong is happening. He's one who has faith in God.
I think you need to hold your thoughts there. We have to take a break. Please don't go anywhere. We need to take a short break. I will be right back shortly.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome back. You're still watching the show Chat to the Professional. Before we went on break, we had talked about how far Governor Darius Ishaku has been able to embark on his rescue mission in Taraba State. And my guest here remains a chartered accountant, a core professional, and of course, the Chief of Staff to the Governor of Taraba State, Rebo Usman. Now, before we went on break, you were trying to talk about why the commissioners were just sworn in, and along the line you talked about he's going to Jerusalem. I'm sure that will be for pilgrimage, perhaps. And what comes to my mind is Nigerians are known to be very religious, but perhaps not too spiritual. Why embark on a pilgrimage, for instance, when there are burning issues? Don't you think, for instance, the state executive should have been put in place before embarking on such a journey?
Yeah, you see, if you got my explanation earlier, I told you even before that time, the date had been fixed. And unfortunately, he was called to Abuja for a series of meetings. He thought he would just spend 2-3 days. It didn't work out that way. And then he ended up spending 2 weeks. And I had to still rush down to do 1 or 2 things for 1 day before getting back to make the trip to Jerusalem. I know that trip to Jerusalem was a national program put in place for our national leaders to go to Jerusalem and pray together. It was supposed to be led by the vice president, but unfortunately, during that period, the vice president had to be in the UK to sign off on an MOU on behalf of Mr. President. So the Speaker of the House of Representatives was in that entourage, the Governor of Ekiti State and others like that were there. So I hope our people will get to understand that it was not just an issue of the Taraba State.
Now let's get to the issue on ground, which is if you like, should I call it annulment of election, or because the tribunal verdict says that in the first instance PDP had no candidate. If I'm not mistaken, that's the verdict of the tribunal. So what's your, is it true actually that PDP did not field a candidate?
It's very funny, my brother, that such a thing could happen in this country. We have an election umpire. I'm not a lawyer, but I am educated. I understand basic issues that have to do with politics and election. There is an umpire. In this country, we have the Independent National Electoral Commission. They have the rules and guidelines for acceptance of candidates from political parties. We're all aware that in this country, we don't have provision for independent candidature for the time being. And there are processes of screening by the election umpire before a candidate is given the go-ahead to stand election. The Independent National Electoral Commission screened Darius, passed him, gave him the clearance to go ahead and stand for the election. They included his name on the election, on the ballot papers.
Was it his name or PDP?
The PDP, of course. PDP gave him that is him. As far as the governorship election was concerned, is only one candidate for the PDP.
I get you.
For the general elections. So PDP logo being there is the same thing as Darius Ishaku's name being there. Now, for them to turn around and say PDP had no candidate, and I said then because I don't want to say the tribunal, because the tribunal says they are basing their ruling on the evidence of INEC. That is so funny. As a country, I'm so ashamed.
Did INEC make such a submission?
Well, from the ruling, they said that was what INEC said, and whichever INEC did that, maybe we had an INEC before and after the election, and then another INEC for the tribunal. I wouldn't understand, because I couldn't see how if you had only one INEC, they will be talking with two sides of the tongue.
Let me even, because you just said you are not a lawyer. I also am not a lawyer, but I'm wondering, wasn't there a certificate of return issued at the end of this election?
Of course, there was a certificate of return. I collected it personally in my capacity as the returning officer.
For the
in fact, the declaration, I collected the declaration paper. Immediately after the declaration was made, the declaration paper was signed.
Now, and I declared Darius a winner.
INEC. Then after the declaration, a date was fixed, and Darius himself came in the fanfare to INEC office to collect his certificate of return. Are you getting me? And now, it's so baffling. But I want to tell you something about the Taraba State elections. And by the time I tell you what happened, then I will tell you what is happening in our country, in Taraba State in particular, and in this country. Because the people doing these things are not Tarabas. First and foremost, we started having issues with our primaries. because they talked about saying because we didn't have primaries. We went for local government, our congresses, the ward congresses that were supposed to bring out 3 delegates per ward for the elections, for the primaries. Now we have issues. The party sent officials to the local governments and the wards to conduct elections. They went ahead and conducted elections. But because the then acting governor, Garba Umar, he was also one of the contestants. He bought the ticket to contest, and one of the aspirants in the PDP for governorship. Now, when the results of the elections conducted by the party, the Congress is conducted by the party, came out, and Garba Umar saw that the list coming in from the local governments would not favor him in the primary elections. He, together with the officials of PDP that came from Abuja, decided to scuttle the whole thing. They disregarded the results and the results sheets submitted from the various local governments and prepared a new list. A list that would favor Garba Umar at that time. Are you getting me? There were other aspirants. No, when we in our group who were not together, who were not in agreement with Garba Umar, so that we decided to go to court to ask for restraint on the use of the list that was being counted about by the Garba Umar. It was a problem all over. Are you getting me? Everybody knows that not only in PDP, but in all the other parties we had all those issues. Not in our own case, we went to court. When we went to court, the court gave an interim injunction to the PDP, asking them not to make use of the list brought in by Garba Umar until the final case was determined. Now, in final ruling on our submission, the court said it was an internal party affair. That they were not going to rule on which of the lists should be used, because we backed up our list with the results sheets.
No, but because we don't have time, was that eventually resolved?
It was the way it was resolved was when the court ruled that the party should resolve it. The party now said, okay, since the 2 lists cannot be accepted, since they are contentious, let us discard of the election list and only use the statutory delegates. Now, what do we mean by statutory delegates? In every local government, you have a local government chairman and a vice. The House of Assembly members from that local government. The chairman of each ward, the party chairman of each ward. Now, these are the the working committee of the local government of the party. Now, this is what we refer to as the statutory delegates. Now, the party says since the elected delegates had issues, they discarded it and said we should come, only the statutory delegates should come for the election. That's one. And secondly, as at that time when the primaries was to be held, the Garba Umar had been thrown out of office by the Supreme Court. Taraba State was tensed up, and the party felt that if they dared go to Jalingo to conduct the primaries, there will be terrible crisis, violence. Now, because of that, they said all the statutory delegates from all the local governments should come to Wadata House for the primaries. And that was what happened.
So the primaries was held
in Wadata House. Exactly.
PDP
primaries.
Not in a hotel.
That was not in a hotel. And that was the primaries that produced Darius as a candidate for PDP.
Well, time is not usually a friend on this show, but unfortunately, it's an issue that I would have loved to continue to talk about. But for the other party, the APC, if you are watching this show, we are giving you the opportunity also to come and state your own case. In as much as we are aware that Darius has appealed that ruling by the tribunal. But we are still giving you the opportunity to come and state your own case, because I am worried if at the end of the day there was a certificate of return issued by INEC and then the same INEC turns around to say something else to the tribunal. I don't know how it works. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just doing my job. So, well, let's see how it plays out. The exciting thing also is that I watched on TV the other day, I saw the governor return. Was that an arranged kind of thing? Because I saw the crowd
let me tell you what happened. Some people would say it was a rented car. But you need to be in Taraba State to feel the pulse of the people. Yes. Now, let me tell you, Darius is not the kind of a fanfare kind of a person.
Okay.
He's a reserved person.
Okay.
He just wanted to go back, do the swearing, and continue with his work while the lawyers did their work. The people said, no, you can never come back like this. There is no how you can come back like this because we are hurt. We have to show the whole world that we love you. We have to show the whole world that the votes of over 70% of the people of Taraba State cannot be said to be a wasted vote.
Okay.
You understand?
Right.
That was what they said. So thank you very much.
Okay. Well, so far so good. It's been my pleasure having this wonderful conversation with you, Rebo Usman.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We hope that going forward we see where your appeal takes us to.
Yes, all right.
My pleasure once again.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much.
Please don't go anywhere, viewers. We'll be right back in a short while to wrap up this show. Well, I'm sorry, that's how much time would permit on the show today, Chat to the Professional. By next week, God willing, we shall be having someone else come talk to us about an issue of national importance or global importance. But for now, it's thanks from me and bye for now.
I chat with a professional. Oh, oh. I chat with a professional when smiles is all wood. I chat with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. I chat with a professional with smiles.